Hi, thanks for coming back. We're doing a show today with Teresa Greco, our dear friend, and we're talking about happiness. One of the things that Marty and I have been discussing between us is age-related happiness.
Yes.
Like, you can often find children who are just so delightful. On the way over, I saw children swinging their arms and then looking down, I'm assuming, at maybe an insect or something like that, and they look so tremendously happy.
Yeah.
But yet, unfortunately, there are a lot of children who are not happy.
No.
So, on the flip side of that, I noticed that the elderly that I hang out with, many of them are very, very satisfied with life.
Yeah.
And they become happier as they get older. What's your take on that, age and happiness?
I think that when we move through life, I think we connect more with ourselves too, and we recognize where we should be expending energy. That whether we're expending it in negative ways or positive
Right.
ways, right? That where energy goes, energy flows. And so we have a negativity bias. 80% of how we think is often negative. So we have to recognize that we often want to expend that energy in negative ways. But I think as we get older, we realize, you know what? I'm not going to sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
Right? That so much energy was going to try to micromanage this
Yeah.
situation or that person. And I was trying to change this person in my life because, I wanted to help them, but really anyone needs to help themselves. We
Yeah.
can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. So we realize that we're going to now steer our energy more towards they're in the positive.
Right.
And we're going to have our energy flow in these directions, which
Right.
is toward the quality of our relationships, right? We don't want to hang out with toxic people anymore.
We're toxic ourselves,
But we're okay with letting those people go. Like
Right.
my circle of friends has become so small now because
Really?
I'm like, I want to be around people that value me
Yeah.
and my presence
Yeah.
and that if I'm just there just to be with bodies,
Yes.
but I'm not even getting anything out of the experience, I'd rather be by myself,
Yeah.
right? So it's like letting some of that go, putting up boundaries between
Right.
like that which is not you and what's not serving you, right? So limiting maybe your interaction,
Right.
bringing yourself more in those places that do bring you joy. So happiness is like a compass.
Yes.
And it can steer you in the direction of really the life that you came
And
here to
forgiveness.
live
Forgiveness
is
I
one
think,
of those tools.
I will
Yes.
share with you something. My father had MS, and we went to an MS picnic. We went in a regular car, and when we came back, there was no car to bring us back. So we came back in an ambulance, and it was, in those days, everybody sat on their porch, and so everybody got out of the ambulance, and they were all like, saying, "Get out, get out!" And the more I sat there, more people kept yelling, and they were pulling to get me out, and I couldn't move out of the ambulance. I couldn't move. I couldn't get out. I couldn't. I didn't. I don't know if I was embarrassed that my father had MS.
When you were traumatized.
I was traumatized or feeling guilty or feeling embarrassed or I don't know what it
right.
was, but they were screaming, get out, and I pulled back. The one other thing I'll share with you, which is very hard. When I was 14, my father was sick with MS. I went downstairs and I was so angry with him that he didn't love me enough, that I kicked him. You know that for 7 years, I lived with that video. The video again, and my mother said, how could you kick a crippled person? The person that I am now is because those things happened, that dark moment, 7 years. And how do you find for happiness to forgive yourself? How do you forgive yourself for things you've done? You're a child, you're confused, you're needing and things like that. And what I learned was at the age of 21, I forgave me. It's okay. I wasn't that mean person. I was, maybe I failed in school. I failed high school because I was so consumed about the pain of having a sick person there. Anyways, I couldn't even talk about this before, but I've shared it with people to say, you have to forgive yourself. You have to love yourself and forgive yourself. What you did then, the person that you are then, is not the person you are now. What do you think, Doc?
Well, I want to hear what Teresa thinks.
Yeah, what do you think, Teresa?
No, absolutely, that we are always doing the best we can with the information that we have and maybe even the resources that we have in that moment. We are always doing that, even when our parents are not who they need to be for us or who they should have been or whatever. They were doing the best that they could under whatever situation they were in. I believe we're always trying to do that, even though the best may not be the right thing, the good thing, the best thing for anybody, for themselves too, for that matter. And so that's why it's important for us to be able to forgive ourselves because of where we were at in that moment, for whatever we were going through, whatever we were experiencing, with the information that we had at that time. As a child, we have a very limited understanding of the world. And that's why even the information that children were let's say confronted with or a part of the discussions and everything during the pandemic there is a mental health crisis in children and teens more than ever before, because as children we have a very limited understanding of the world. We're like a blank slate when we come in, right? And then we slowly start to understand what this world is about through our own experiences, but oftentimes it's from well-meaning adults, our parents, educators, religious leaders, friends, colleagues, whatever, trying to say, well, this is what the world is like. And so we're like, okay, we just taking it all in. So as children with that very limited understanding, we absolutely need to forgive ourselves and even as adults, the same thing. Even your parents may be looking back at what your mom said to you in that moment, right? Is that and looking at you as a child that you were in that moment, and forgiveness goes. It is a huge tool, and forgiveness is something that we give to ourselves too, because it releases us from the shackles of that pain, that shame, that regret, that upset, anything that's keeping us stuck.
There's a saying that I tell over every high holidays, Yom Kippur, that the world was created for forgiveness.
Wow.
It's a beautiful saying.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Totally
I'm
agree
sending you
with
some
that.
good stuff, aren't I? And I want to tell you something, that if you're at all questioning what you took away from those very difficult situations, I've known you for many years and I've known you very well. And you are really a very, very forgiving person. There are people in your life who you just really don't want to have any time
I
with.
feel like I'm in therapy.
Well, we all have that. But I would say overall, Marty, if someone apologizes to you or they come up to you and say, I did wrong, I've never seen you turn away from them. You're very, very accepting.
I think when you've seen the darkness and you reach for the light, Teresa, I think there's either one way you're going to go back into darkness or into the light.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think you've done that many times, Avrum, in your life, the changes that you've made and some of the conquests that you've dealt with.
Hello, darkness, hello, friend. Say it, Teresa, talk.
I wanted to say that you mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation today that you had a friend who is stuck in that place of unforgiveness.
Yeah.
And forgiveness is something, again, that we give to ourselves. So look at him ruminating in it, right? That unforgiveness is drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Oh, wow.
Have you heard of that quote?
no.
Oh, there you go. That's the one I
What do you
thought
think
you
of
were
that?
going to
That's
share.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'll share that one again.
share it.
So unforgiveness is drinking poison and expecting the other person
like
to
that.
die.
That's really good.
And that's what your friend is in, that place of unforgiveness, ruminating in it and feeling awful and angry, and you're like, and this is, we have to understand that we're stuck in it, but the other people don't even care. They moved on, like you're fine with it, right?
true, right?
So he calls you and he's like, listen, I'm stuck in the muck, and you're like, sorry.
me.
We're going to stay in happiness. We got a lot more to talk about. Teresa is here, and your heartfelt words and your emotions are terrific. They're just, it really makes us happy just hearing the words. I think just hearing positive, loving words can go a long way. Thank you.